Okay, everybody, welcome back to episode 70. I forgot what the number is, 73, Ryan.
73, yes, sir.
Episode 73 of the Facts Over Feelings podcast. I am Trevor. I'm joined by my good friend Ryan Marister once again. Ryan, this is going to be a pretty quick and easy podcast. I'm sure the viewers will have a good idea of what we're going to talk about. NFL playoffs, a little NBA, and that is just about it. So let's get this party started, Ryan.
Mm.
Who's winning the Super Bowl, my friend? We got four teams left.
Trevor, I'm going to give you two answers to that question. First is my boring answer. The first answer, the Kansas City Chiefs. All right, the Kansas City Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl. I mean, I think they're just the best team in football. And, if the Bucs were still in it, I would go with Tampa Bay, actually. But they're not. So the Chiefs, Trevor, are just too good. Their offense has scored 84 points, as I told you off the air, which is pretty crazy through two playoff games. They're kind of rolling right now on that end of on that side of the ball. Their defense isn't great. It's not. We all knew that though. Tyrann Mathieu got banged up early. I think he got a concussion in the first quarter of the game. So he was out pretty quickly. So that does merit some mentioning because he is probably their best or second best after Chris Jones defensive player. But either way, Trevor, I think that their offense is too unstoppable. Obviously they have Hill and Kelsey, but they also have some other guys. And, I'll get into this a little later when we talk about the Chiefs-Bills game, Trevor. But I just want to say, Jerick McKinnon, I think, has been a nice find for this team. And he's been hurt for pretty much 2 years in a row. But, healthy now, I feel like, and maybe it's just a perception more than an actual statistical reality, but I feel like he's provided them with some energy from the running back spot, especially out of the backfield on passes. I think he had 55 yards receiving last game, which was third on the team, which is pretty good out of the backfield. So I think, and not just last game, last few games, he's been pretty good for them. So, other guys can contribute. Byron Pringle had a nice touchdown. Anyway, this offense is unstoppable, Trevor. The Chiefs are my favorite. But my fun team is the San Francisco 49ers, Trevor. Look, the Niners, I said it going into last week. I said on last week's podcast, Trevor, I said, if any team's going to make an upset this week, it's going to be the 49ers. And lo and behold, the Niners, aided by the weather, Trevor, evidently, were able to get it done, right? I mean, what was it, 9-6, I think? Unbelievable.
13-10.
Or sorry. Oh, wow. I got that really wrong. Anyway, 13-10. I mean, it was a great game. Packers couldn't do anything on offense. And the Niners, they're a good team. Kyle Shanahan, a good coach. That defense is ferocious, obviously. Jimmy G is a better quarterback than he's been in past years, Trevor. I'm telling you, give him the opportunity next week against the Rams. And then if they make the Super Bowl against the Chiefs, I guess, or the Bengals if they were to win, I think Jimmy G can shine. I think he can be at least on par with a guy like Matthew Stafford next week, Trevor. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes toe-to-toe with them, as he did in the regular season, right? I mean, he did it multiple times in the regular season, went toe-to-toe with Stafford. So I would look out for the Niners. They're a dangerous team with, all their players healthy. Deebo Samuel, obviously, anywhere on the field is a threat. Brandon Ayuk's a nice player. They've got great play calling from Shanahan. And that defense is solid, Trevor. I mean, they got a good front seven. They got Fred Warner leading that linebacking crew. Obviously they have Nick Bosa. Obviously, they have a few other guys on that. I think Eric Armstead on that D line. Obviously, they have some good players. I think this team could beat the Rams. And, if they make the Super Bowl, they could give the Chiefs a run for their money, assuming the Chiefs beat the Bengals next week. I think it's down to the Chiefs or the 49ers in my book. Chiefs are the safe bet. Niners, a little more risk, but definitely can happen.
Good synopsis there, Ryan. I agree with you on this. I think the Kansas City Chiefs will win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
They're the clear favorite to win right now. I think the second team and the team that can give them a run for their money, just because this team is similarly built to the team that beat Kansas City last year, I think is the Los Angeles Rams.
Fair.
And we've seen in the playoffs and we've seen down the stretch of the regular season how dominant this defensive line for the Los Angeles Rams is. I mean, look, Von Miller hasn't had that many sacks, but he's made an impact. Aaron Donald is showing people again why he is the best defensive player in the NFL. Leonard Floyd is an excellent pass rusher. Jalen Ramsey manning out that secondary. I think this Rams defense is built to beat Kansas City. And I do think they're going to beat San Francisco this weekend. So I will predict right now. I'm predicting Chiefs Rams Super Bowl. I don't know who would win that game. I'd probably go with Kansas City. But I think the Los Angeles Rams are, like I said, built a lot like Tampa Bay. They have an elite defensive line and they have an offense with weapons, right? Cam Akers has definitely helped out this offense. They've been able to run the ball. I think Sean McVay, needed that. Sean McVay likes to run the football. He likes to commit to the run and then use play action similarly to Kyle Shanahan. And look, the Rams have two elite receivers. Cooper Kupp has had one of the best receiving years in NFL history. And Ryan's not going to like hearing this, but Odell Beckham Jr. has been properly utilized in Los Angeles. And he all of
Yeah.
a sudden has had a very big impact for this Rams team. So I think the Rams are very capable of beating Kansas City. But the final thing I want to say about this, and I'll talk more about it when we talk about the Bills-Chiefs game, Patrick Mahomes is he's just unlike anything I've ever seen. I mean, he's been to 4 straight AFC Championship games now. He's been to 2 straight Super Bowls.
Yeah.
I can't believe how dominant he has been. And look, he hasn't even had a learning curve. He came in his first year starting. He went to the AFC Championship game and almost took down Brady. And then the last 2 years, he went to the Super Bowl and won a Super Bowl. So
Mhm.
I'm just astounded with how good Patrick Mahomes is. He could go down as the greatest quarterback of all time. I don't want to jump the gun too much on
Definitely,
that, but
definitely up there. Definitely up there.
the kind of dominance this guy's had, and he's only in his 5th year in the league, and he's in his mid
Mhm.
20s. I've never seen anything like it. So kudos to him. And I'll lead off our football discussion, I think, with the Bills Chiefs game. And
Mm.
might I say that look, this entire weekend of divisional games for the NFL was just fantastic. I
Might
mean,
have been the best week of football, Trevor, we've ever seen.
I would agree with that
Really?
100%. The best week I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if I've ever seen 4 playoff games like that literally come down to the last play every single time. 3-game winning
Mhm.
field goals and an overtime touchdown. So we'll lead right into the Bills Chiefs game. And Ryan, I want you to try and put into words this game because I've had a hard time comprehending what I saw. I just saw 2 elite quarterbacks go at it, 2 elite teams go at it. And I think you and I saw it. And I'll say it again. There was a clear difference in just overall football skill in that Buffalo Kansas City game versus the Cincinnati Tennessee game. I don't know if you just
Mhm.
saw I saw just a
Sure.
different level of play between those 2 teams. But go ahead.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you said that because to be honest, Trevor, I mean, I didn't look at the viewership for the Bengals Titans game, but I believe the Bills Chiefs was the most watched game, Trevor, in not only this year, but in the last like 8 to 10 years or something like that. It
I
was
believe
one
it.
of the
Yeah.
most watched games ever. And the talent reflected that. I'm glad you said that because look, like the Bengals Titans, Trevor, I didn't watch most of that game. It wasn't that entertaining to me.
No, it wasn't.
Watching a one seed that I think was kind of fraudulent. I don't think they were all that good. And the Bengals, who I really also don't think are that special, like no knock on Burrow or Jamar Chase, I just
Mm-hmm.
don't think they're that scary of a team. Right now, if they go out and beat Kansas City, it's still for some reason I still wouldn't think they're that scary of a team, Trevor. It's just there's something about that team. They still feel young. They still have some missing pieces. But I mean, credit to how far they've gotten. But I'm just saying, like, I mean, I think there's a level of play, that's from the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs and from the Rams and the Bucks, Trevor, that just, I didn't see or I
Mm,
don't see from the Bengals and the Titans. So I'm glad you said that. But
mm.
look, Trevor, look, this game was, I mean, there's really no way you can put it into words. I thought it was over multiple times. I thought it was over, Trevor. Trevor, I watched this entire game pretty much except for the first few minutes of the game. And I just want to say, I turned the game off after Buffalo scored with Gabriel Davis. There was what? There must have been 13 seconds. I think it was something like that, Trevor.
Yeah.
There was no
Yeah.
time. I was like, and it wasn't even like they were up by, it was just insane, Trevor. I don't even know.
Mm.
It was just unbelievable. I thought it was done. I thought there was no way Kansas City, no way they could get into field goal range in time. I mean, they had to run. I thought they'd have time for 1 play, maybe 2. And I look like 5 minutes later and it's tied up. And I'm like, this is unreal. And I go back and watch it.
Mm.
It was just like, I mean, what were the Bills doing? That's why I hate soft defense at the end of those games, Trevor. I mean, they gave Tyreek a massive cushion and he had space to run upfield for 20 yards on that first play. But look, Trevor, an insane game. I feel really bad for Josh Allen because he really did deserve, his first AFC championship, his first Super Bowl appearance. He really did, Trevor. I really think, he wins this game. He beats Cincinnati, right? Because since he goes to Buffalo, he'll beat
Right.
them. I feel for him because there was nothing he could have done. Nothing else he could have done. He laid it all out on the field. He played such good football. Yeah, I feel for him. I mean, 330, 4 TDs, no picks. I mean, 70 yards on the ground. I mean, I just can't. And I want to shout out Gabriel Davis, Trevor, because Not only was he fantastic, not only do you have 200 yards and 4 TDs, but the way he did it, Trevor, was crazy. I mean, I don't know if you saw one of his routes, Trevor. It was a nice little skinny post over the middle. He had a nice double move at the top of the route. The corner fell to the ground. I mean, it was just such a dirty route. He's just, I know I've been kind of looking at this guy from afar for the last year or so. I know Trevor, back when in our fantasy football heyday, I remember I mentioned him a couple times as a guy I liked. This guy's special, Trevor. I mean, look, the Bills have a nice group of receivers, a nice crew of players in general. And it was nice seeing Gabriel Davis show out on the national stage because he's really talented. He really is. So shout out to him because he had an amazing game, a sensational game. And I don't want to, put too much on this, but I just want to say, Trevor, I know Gabriel Davis was amazing, right? I know Cole Beasley had a lot of catches and a good amount of yards, but Stephon Diggs was nowhere to be found. And and Kansas City doesn't have a lockdown corner, really. And again, I know Davis had 200 yards and 4 TDs, so it's like how much can be spread around? But if your top receiver, Trevor, has 7 yards, right, in the biggest game of the season, I want a little more. I do, and I think five of those yards was on one catch at the very end of the game. I don't know, Trevor. I was a little disappointed by that. I didn't notice him in the game. I didn't notice him in the box score. I had to look all the way down at the bottom. So I was a little disappointed by that. So I don't know. Those were a couple things that I noticed. And also, Trevor, I don't want to put too much of a general statement on this game, but I mean, I think that their inability to run Buffalo's might have hurt them a little bit. I mean, outside of Josh Allen, they had about 30 rush yards, Trevor. I mean, they had 41 rush yards outside of Josh Allen, which is unacceptable. I memean, you look at KC and they didn't have a ton, but they had like 112, 113 outside of Patrick Mahomes, which is a lot more than the Bills had. So I don't know. I just think that, I'm not a big balance guy. I think if you're a great passing team, that's great. But I think that in the end, when you have like 40 rushing yards and like 25 from your main running back, I think that's kind of unacceptable. So, that's just those are just a few things I wanted to point out, but credit to KC. I mean, they did it when I thought they couldn't. I thought they were done. I thought they were toast. I thought it was over, but credit to them for fighting back and doing what I thought was impossible.
Yeah, you make a lot of great points. I agree with you on most of this. I have a couple of things I want to add, and
yeah, go ahead.
You covered the game really well. I think the Bills made a couple of critical coaching errors as soon as they went up 36-33 with 13 seconds left. And I know this has been a debate of, the bigger debate's been about overtime, and I'll address that in a second, the overtime rules. But, should Sean McDermott, who I love, I'm a huge advocate for, should he have just kicked it in the end zone, or should he have tried pooched it or squibbed it and, forced another 3 or 4 seconds to be taken off the clock? I think they should have pooch kicked it and, kicked it somewhere around the 5-yard line, forced the guy to come out and return it or call a fair catch, albeit. But I think that was a coaching mistake. I think McDermott should have thought of, you have to think with Patrick Mahomes, it takes one play. All he needs is one play. And they should have tried taking at least a few seconds off that clock to, take away a play from Kansas City, basically. I think the other big mistake they made was on that play with, I believe, 8 seconds left that got Kansas City into field goal range. And what was so interesting about it was that was backyard football. Travis Kelce did not run the designed route. And he told Patrick Mahomes that. He said, I'm going to do this. And Patrick Mahomes said, okay, I'm going to get you the ball. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
And I thought the big mistake by the Buffalo Bills here was you got to play soft coverage, right? Because you don't want to give up anything over the top. But bringing that fourth rusher to me doesn't make sense because you look at how they were mapped out. You look at how their zone was kind of mapped out. They had, I believe it was 3 guys deep. And, they had 4 pass rushes and they had 4 intermediate guys. Kelce was able to find a hole right where there was a guy, I believe, near the sideline and a guy inside the hashes. And Kelce kind of ran right up the left hash, just ran like a little seam route. And Patrick Mahomes found him wide open. And Kelce was just so wide open, he was able to run for a few extra yards and actually make it become a very manageable kick. And if I'm the Bills, I rush 3 guys, I drop 8, and I just don't give them I don't give them any holes to run after the catch. If they can make the catch, great, but don't let them get yards after the catch. And I felt like there was an open zone where if they had an 8th guy in coverage, they probably would have been able to fill that. But that's just me getting a little nitpicky. I feel like that was a little bit of a mistake, though, by the defensive coordinator and Sean McDermott.
Sure.
And Look, I want to shout out Josh Allen too, because Josh Allen he might have played the greatest football game of any quarterback ever to lose, just to lose,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yes, yes.
The greatest performance in a losing effort I've ever seen. 330 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, 70 rush yards, near perfect quarterback rating. Just a masterpiece. And the fact that he led the team down the field to score with 2 minutes left and then led them down again with 13 seconds left just shows you the kind of grit and the kind of like mental toughness and fortitude this guy has. And
Mhm.
it was a pleasure to watch. It was unbelievable to watch him convert multiple fourth downs, convert that touchdown to Gabriel Davis over the middle with 13 seconds left. And I love seeing him fired up because it really showed me how much he wanted this game. And I felt horrible for him because I saw him on the sidelines, just sitting on the sideline with his helmet off, or not off, his helmet on as Kansas City scores and wins the game, which leads me into the final thing I want to address, the whole fuss about the overtime rules. And all I got to say is can we please shut up about it? I am sick and tired of
Yeah.
hearing people go, the Bills lost because of a coin toss. No, they didn't. The Bills lost because their defense couldn't stop anything. Kansas City went down the field 3 or 4 times. It was ridiculous. And the Bills had absolutely no answer. If you get off the field and at least force a field goal, right, you
Mhm.
get the ball back. But the fact that you couldn't even stop Kansas City from getting in the end zone, what was it, twice, and then that you gave up the long play to get the field goal, I think this game was just on the Bills defense running out of gas.
Mhm.
And it was fairly predictable that whoever was going to get the ball first in overtime was probably going to go down and score and win. But look, this game was not on the overtime rules. The overtime rules, in my opinion, are good. They're not perfect. But if we're talking about NFL rule changes, I think overtime rules are near the bottom. And I know, Ryan, you and I have discussed this multiple times, and I
Yeah.
think you would agree.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'll give a brief comment on it. Here's my thing is like, maybe they did lose because he didn't get an opportunity. That might be true. Maybe the overtime rules could be improved a little bit. Could they become a sort of college style, starting at the 50 and just keep going till someone doesn't score? Maybe, yeah. But we all knew the rules. The rules have been the same for years, Trevor. I can't even remember a
Exactly.
time when the rules were different. This is how they've always been.
Exactly.
So my thing about it is like it's not top on my list because it's not some new rule, right? It's not some super new thing like baseball a couple years ago, adding a player on second base in extra innings, right? Which was horrible, by the way. But anyway, it's not some new thing like that, right? It's
Yeah.
been established. It's been around for a long time. We all know how it works. The players aren't gonna, go out and publicly cry about it because they know that's how overtime is and how it's always been, right? Now, would I be opposed to changing the rules? No, and I'm sure Trevor would agree with me. He wouldn't be opposed to changing the rules. It's just, there are stuff that matters more. Like for me, something like, changing the rules, establishing what a catch is better. Pass interference. A lot of these things, pass interference is super shady. It always has been. Hitting the quarterback is also always shady. Always has been. Things like that. Those things can be looked at. Those things should be, reviewed more. I don't think overtime rules are that big of a deal, like that
Mhm.
pressing right now. It's been around for a long time, so the players knew the rules going in. We all knew it for a long time now. So I just don't think it's that big of a deal. So I do agree with you in that sense, Trevor. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think we agree a lot on this game, Trevor. I think it'll be interesting. Do you think that the Bengals Chiefs game is even going to be close? I mean, if I had to guess, Trevor, I would say that the Chiefs will win by about 10 to 13, 10 to 14, something like that. If I had to say, it'll be close for a while. I think KC pulls away a little bit later, though.
I just think Cincinnati's offensive line is such a weakness, man. And
Mm,
look, Tennessee's not a high-powered offense. We can all agree that Ryan Tannehill is not a great quarterback. We saw it on Saturday. He just doesn't. He can't win you a football game. Patrick Mahomes can win you a football game.
there's a difference between
I
the
I
two.
agree. I would, yes, I would agree with
Yes.
that. Um, Look, I just don't think Cincinnati's there yet. Like you said, there's too many holes on that roster, and that offensive line is so bad. I just think, and Kansas City has a good pass rush. Chris Jones, Jaron Reed, Frank Clark, they can get after the quarterback. Melvin Ingram was really getting after Josh Allen late in that game. If you saw a couple times,
Trevor,
so
who
I think. Go ahead.
Who?
Sorry.
Sorry, I was just asking. Do you know who the rookie is on the Chiefs? He's on their front seven. I don't know if you might have
Are you talking
mentioned him right there.
about Nick Bolton?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. You didn't mention him, but I was just thinking of him because I thought he's made some nice plays on that defense for them this
He
year.
did. He has played
Yeah.
well towards the end of the season. So I just think, yeah, Cincinnati's too many holes. I think Kansas City wins that game easily. I think the line is -7. I think Kansas City will cover that easily, and they're at home. It's just tough.
I think that's the big thing. I think that's the big thing, right? Like, not that Cincy's a hard place to play, but that Arrowhead's such a hard place.
Cincinnati's not an easy place to play.
Yeah, but like
Arrowhead's
a harder place to play, I think. And also, the experience factor, I think that being at home is going to be a big thing for them. So, yeah, no, I agree with you. I was just curious on your thoughts. But anyway, Trevor.
I'm pulling for the Bengals. I'm a huge Joe Burrow fan. Congratulations to him. He's had a great year. But no, Chiefs are winning that game easily, in my opinion. I would guess by at least 14 points. I think it won't even be close, but that's just me.
At least 14. Wow, that's wow.
14 or more.
Let's see. We'll see about that, Trevor. But until that time, we can move on and talk about the other game, Trevor, that to me might have been even crazier. And okay, maybe not even crazier, but just as crazy. Right? I mean, it was insane. And let me tell you, I watched this entire game, Trevor. And I'll tell you this: even when Tampa Bay went down 27-3, Trevor, I still
in the back of your head, like maybe they can come back.
I swear to you, I was sitting there and I'm like, the Bucs can tie this game. They can win this game. Like I was like, Brady was down 28-3 in the Super Bowl just 3 or 4 years ago, Trevor. Mm-hmm. Why can't he win now? And lo and behold, there they go, right? The Rams start giving the game away, right? Cooper Kupp, Cam Akers, it was unbelievable. So, I mean, credit to the Tampa defense. The Ndamukong Suh, Trevor, is so good, by the way. I just want to say, like, not only is he a great run stopper, not only is he a solid pass rusher, but, I mean, to punch the ball out the way he did in that game, I mean, especially on that last fumble on Cam Akers, he's just a great player. I just wanted to shout him out. But, Trevor, this game was just wild. Cooper Kupp, sensational, right? Matthew Stafford played a good game. I got to give him credit where credit's due, Trevor. He played a good game. He played definitely better than good. He played like an elite level quarterback in this game, Trevor. And, he kind of disappeared for most of that second half, but he stepped up when they needed him most, right? And that throw he made to Cooper Kupp, Trevor, the throw of his career. Not even close, right? He's never been in a situation as big as that.
That was a legacy play for him.
It was.
That was the biggest throw of his career, 100%.
And Trevor, it's funny because you had just said, talking about the Bills, you want to play soft coverage so you don't give up the deep threat. Look at Tampa. They went one-on-one over the top, and they gave up the deep threat, right? Antoine Winfield just got burned.
I'll talk about that more, but another big mistake by a very, very experienced and really good defensive coordinator, Todd Bowles, who was once my Cardinals defensive coordinator. But go ahead.
No, yeah, I mean, you're definitely right? And it's just crucial mistakes like that. So, I will say Brady had his mistakes too. And they weren't all on him. I don't want people putting it all on him. His O-line was horrible. Tristan Wirfs was hurt. They had another O-lineman. I believe their right guard also got hurt mid-game, or their right tackle. I forget which, but they got hurt mid-game, I think. So that was tough. He lost a couple fumbles. And I do want to say, I think about it, Trevor, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, man, I can't bet against Brady, but I'm looking at that offense and they don't have really that much. Mike Evans is really good.
He is.
Gronk is solid, I guess. He's solid. Fournette's good. But Fournette's been really good. But they have nobody. They like Chris Godwin and Antonio Brown, Trevor. I mean, those are 2 Pro Bowl level losses. I mean, they are. You can make fun of AB all you want, but the guy was a Pro Bowl level receiver when he was healthy, in my opinion. And Chris Godwin, of course, was a Pro Bowl level receiver as well when healthy. So I think, just looking at that offense, Trevor, it just didn't quite look the same, even when they were coming back. But, a great game. Brady gave it his all. That whole team gave it their all. I never bet against the Bucs, no matter how much they were down, and I thought they were going to win the game, but Stafford proved me wrong, Trevor, and in the end, they got it done. I do want to say one last thing. I know I've been taking up a lot of time. I do want to say one last thing before you go ahead. Look, OBJ's been decent. You mentioned OBJ a few minutes ago, Trevor. OBJ's been decent for them. He's been good. He's been good. But let's not pretend that he is anything more than what Robert Woods was. Let's not pretend like he's really even what Robert Woods was, Trevor. He only averaged, Odell Beckham Jr., about 37 receiving yards with the Rams this year. Okay? I'm just saying, he had 5 touchdowns, and that's all well and good. That's great. That's great. That's a good contribution. It really is. I'm not making fun of it. but like he had sub 40 receiving yards per game, Trevor. So, like he's been a good receiver. He hasn't really been, by no means has he lived up to his name, is what I'm trying to say. But he's been a solid acquisition in a time when they needed it, right? When Robert Woods tore his ACL. So, it's good for him. But I just wanted to mention that because that's kind of my take on him.
Look, OBJ's been properly utilized, whether it's the quarterback upgrade or the coaching upgrade. OBJ has found a home in Los Angeles, and Ryan loves to be nitpicky with his stats. But look, OBJ has made timely play after timely play, and he had a very solid game on Sunday. He had a very solid game against my Cardinals in the wild card round, and I think he's been fully worth the pickup and more. And, Ryan brought it up, 5 touchdowns. A couple of those touchdowns were late in the game, huge plays. The one against Baltimore might have saved the division for them, although my Cardinals still gave it away somehow. I don't even want to. Anyways, OBJ has made timely plays for this team, and I think that's an underrated aspect of championship caliber teams, right? It's not the guy that gets all the stats, right? It's not the Cooper Kupps of the world that maybe that are the difference when you get into the playoffs. It's the guys like OBJ who make the timely plays. Think back to the Milwaukee Bucks series against my Phoenix Suns. Who stepped up so big? That might have been the little bit difference they needed to win. It was guys like Drew Holiday, guys like Bobby Portis, who weren't huge stat guys in the regular season, but they made huge plays in crucial moments that gave the Bucks a little bit more to win that championship. So that's why I think OBJ has been worth it for the Rams. My synopsis on the game is this. The Buccaneers were beat up. The Buccaneers were in turmoil. Now there's all these things about Brady maybe wanting to retire, the Antonio Brown thing, Chris Godwin being let go.
Yeah.
The Bucks were had a lot of internal problems going on, and the Rams were the better team. They have the better defense. They have the better weapons. With what Tampa Bay had in this game, the Rams have better weapons. And the Rams did their best to lose this game. They did everything in their power to give this game away to Tom Brady. And luckily, Matthew Stafford made one huge throw right at the end to, save the day. And he played great, and the Rams played great. But I want to go through these possessions, Ryan, because this will come back to bite you. This will come back to bite you in the butt, maybe next round or in the Super Bowl, hypothetically. The Rams scored a touchdown, right? It's 27-3 a few minutes into the third quarter. Their next set of possessions are fumble, punt, fumble, missed field goal, punt, fumble, and then the field goal. That's just inexcusable. And if you're Sean McVay, that can't happen again if you want to win a Super Bowl. Look, Tampa Bay came back, but Tampa Bay came back because the Rams were giving them chance after chance after chance after chance to come back. And finally, the Bucs found a little bit of a spark in the fourth quarter with Tom Brady just making some really good throws, made the great throw to Mike Evans. Leonard Fournette had that nice touchdown to tie the game.
Ramsey got burned.
But the Rams, yeah, he did. The Rams really gave this game away. And I already touched on this earlier. I think the story of this Rams team is that defensive line, man. I haven't seen Brady get hit that much in a long time. And I'm pretty sure his offensive line, albeit was hurt, Ryan made a very good point, no Tristan Wirfs.
Yep.
I think Tom Brady's offensive line, I think he'd gotten sacked like the fewest times in the NFL this year, or somewhere in the bottom 3 quarterbacks to get sacked the few times. And I don't know how many times he got sacked on Sunday, but it was probably like 6 or 7 at least. I felt like the Rams were getting after him every play. And that's why it just felt like the Buccaneers couldn't come back. They couldn't protect Tom Brady. They couldn't give him time to throw. And now I'm looking at the sacks. Yeah, well, they only had 3 sacks. It felt like a lot more, if I'm being honest. But I don't know. I just think the story of this game was the Rams defensive line, and Ryan mentioned it. Matthew Stafford made an excellent throw to Cooper Kupp at the end, and he played solid throughout the entire afternoon. But everyone's going to remember that throw, because that throw, that's a legacy type play for Matthew Stafford, a guy who's kind of, he's been a good quarterback, but he's never really done much. He's never won a playoff game until this year. He's not really, he never did much in Detroit. That was a legacy throw. And if they go on to win the Super Bowl, that might be the type of play that gets him into the Hall of Fame one day. You know what I mean? So I think that was a huge play for his career, and just a huge play for the Rams season, because that would have been a horrendous way to go out if they gave that game away up 27-3 in the second half. Yeah, no,
I mean, I definitely agree with you on that. I do want to say, Trevor, I want to get your opinion on this before we move on, just real quick. Cam Akers, the guy had 2 fumbles, right? The guy had 2 fumbles. Obviously
Not a great game.
he had a great Achilles recovery, historic, really, like remarkable recovery from a torn Achilles. But after 2 fumbles in one game, pretty crucial, especially the second one. Do you still ride with him? He also struggled on the ground. Do you still ride with him in the next game, Trevor? Do you still start him out there? You put him out there for the bulk of the carries, the bulk of the snaps, or do you go to Michelle or Henderson?
He's their most explosive running back, right? I think him and Michelle are a nice 1-2 combo.
Mhm.
I do think look, you're
Tough.
right. It was a miracle return to football in 5.5 months from an Achilles tear, and I just don't think he's ready to have 20 or 25 carries a game. I just the conditioning might be there, but it's hard for me to believe that he's as strong as he was before he tore his Achilles, right? In terms of
Fair.
just like strength to hold on to the football, strength to run through tackles, overall conditioning, overall stamina. I don't know. I think McVay's overusing him a little bit, and I think Cam Akers is easily their best running back. Sony Michel's done a nice job, but Cam Akers is far and away their best running back. But I do think they need a little bit of a balance. And when a guy fumbles the ball twice, you might need to reassess things a little bit, right? Like 2
Yeah.
fumbles in a playoff game is a very big deal. So for Sony Michel to get 1 carry for 4 yards and to get Cam Akers 24 carries, I think is a little.
Yep.
I think we need to bring that down to like 17 carries, 18 carries for Michelle, and like 18 carries for Cam Akers and like 8 to 10 for Sony Michel. I just think there needs to be a little bit more of a balance. But look, I'm not in the Rams medical room. I'm not seeing Cam Akers on the practice field, so I don't know how he is physically. He seems fine because he's getting a lot of load, but a lot of a workload. But look,
Yep.
2 fumbles in a game, I think that's just from lack of game reps. I just think that's why he did that. But that's my personal opinion
Fair.
on it.
No,
I
yeah,
don't know.
and I only asked you that because I want to see what you thought. I agree with you. Look, like he's their most explosive runner. You're totally right. Even on that fumble, Trevor. I mean, you could see the explosiveness. He was going to get a first down. I
Right.
think
That was
that
going to be, that might have been the game if
I
he
think
got
that
that
was
first down.
I saw the hole. I was like, that's the game. But then he fumbled out. I mean, what happened. But I mean, man, like he definitely is their most explosive runner, especially at the point of contact. Right, that when that hole opens up, or right when the first defender gets to him, definitely the most explosive runner between him and Michelle and Henderson as well. But look, not only for his health or like conditioning, but just to be smart. I think it's smart to use another running back, in this case, Tony Michelle or Daryl Henderson. I'm okay with either if Henderson's healthy. Um, to use 2 running backs like Zeke and Tony Pollard, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, Chase Edmonds and James Conner. It's a
Right.
generally good idea, especially now more teams are doing it. I think it's a pretty good idea to use two
For
running backs
longevity.
because for longevity and also to keep them fresh in game, right? I mean, look,
Right.
you keep them ready to go. You put them in situations where a certain one succeeds more than the other.
Mhm.
Edmonds and Connor, very different running backs, right?
Very different.
Pollard and
Yes.
Zeke, also different running backs. One is more of a pass catcher, one's more run heavy, and one, and same with Akers, and I would say Michelle. I'd say Michelle is probably a better pass catcher and more of a. I'd say he's more of an elusive guy, I would say, and I'd say Akers is more explosive. But regardless, Trevor, I think it's
Mhm.
good to just split them, not only for their longevity, but also in game, like keeping them fresh and putting them in positions to succeed, right? I think that the days of running a guy into the ground 35 times are almost gone, right? Derrick Henry's pretty much the last guy, maybe Joe Mixon, but I mean, Todd Gurley was the guy back in the day, but you really don't see that much anymore, Trevor. I mean,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
CMC gets hurt every year now, it feels like.
exactly.
McCaffrey.
And it's best to play your number one guy 70% of the time, the second guy 30%, and let them sprinkle in and mix it up for the defenses as well. It keeps them on their toes too. So that's what I think, and I'm glad we talked about that for a minute because I thought that was interesting. But
Mhm.
Trevor, if you don't have anything else, I mean, unless you do, go right ahead. But if you
No, Ryan, I'm ready to make fun of the Los Angeles Lakers. It's one of my favorite
I,
pastimes. I
that's
actually was Instagram DMing one of my good friends who's a Lakers fan, and he posted something about, Anthony Davis making his return tonight.
oh
And I
boy.
commented on it. And I was like, hey man, like you guys might have a shot at the 8 seed now. And then he goes, Trevor, if we have AD healthy, we're going further than the Suns in the playoffs this year. And I almost dropped my phone and started laughing. But
Trevor, can
that's besides the point, Ryan.
I
Yes,
do want to say
please,
something as we're
please.
getting into this, talking about the Lakers here. I just want to say before we jump into the team, I do also have a buddy who's a big Lakers fan. And you know what he told me before the
Oh
season
no.
started, Trevor? You know what he told me? He said, "You won't be laughing when we three-peat." He
The problem is, how do you three-peat?
Exactly. These
You
Trevor,
didn't win last year.
these Lakers fans are delusional. They genuinely believe they can win back to back to back titles. It's unbelievable. It's unreal. So, it is funny. I love making fun of the Lakers. We all love making fun of the Lakers. And look, Trevor, in all
Look,
reality,
if their fans weren't so delusional and annoying, I would have less fun talking about them. But the fact that they are, it's just so enjoyable for me to look at this 500 basketball team right now. But yeah,
yeah.
what were you saying?
No, I was just gonna say, look, Trevor, in all reality, like they deserve to be made fun of a little bit because outside of LeBron James, Trevor, I don't see what there's to like on this team. Malik Monk is good in spurts. He's good week to
I
week.
think he needs a bigger role. I like
I do,
him.
I
I think he
agree.
needs a bigger role in the team. But go ahead. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I hear
no,
you.
I agree with you. I think that Trevor Ariza's fine. I mean, he's okay. Austin Reeves isn't very good. I mean, he's shooting 32% as a supposed shooter. I mean, like the guy's not that good.
I
Stanley
don't know
Johnson,
what they.
Stanley
What do they
Johnson's been a
see
nice
in
find.
him?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I
bear
don't know.
down.
I don't know, Trevor. Like he's an unathletic white guy who can't really shoot very well. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see what they do. But Stanley Johnson's been a nice find, right? The guy's been good on both sides of the ball, been kind of explosive for them. So that's good. Horton Tucker's been terrible. Melo's been good.
Yes.
Melo's been nice, I will say. And, he's not trying to take over. He's staying within his role, which is good.
Yeah.
And Davis has been hurt, but Trevor, he was pretty bad before he got hurt. Look, he was doing okay inside the 3-point line, but he was shooting 17% from outside behind the arc, Trevor, which is horrible, terrible.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on
great.
with him. Averaging under 3 assists a game, not really doing much in that department. Doing fine on the defensive end, but Trevor, I worry about him on the offensive end, especially coming off an injury. Can he get back to that all pro caliber, all-star level? I don't know. At least it'll take a while. Point being, LeBron James has to carry this team. And I want to get to the the main guy I wanted to talk about, which is my buddy Russell Westbrook. And look, Trevor, look.
I got to ask you, Ryan, real quick.
Yes.
Did you have some kind of run-in with Russell Westbrook when you were younger? Did he cut you off on the freeway one time?
Did he get in a car wreck with one of my family members or something? No, he didn't. No,
it just seems a little too personal with you guys. Look, if you guys had some kind of falling out, I get it. It happens. We're all human here. But no, Trevor, please rip him to shreds.
Yeah, there's two reasons it feels personal to me. Look, one is the fact that, look, he refuses to acknowledge his poor play to the media. Like, I get it. The media is annoying. I get it. They ask stupid 100%. Questions constantly. I get it more than anyone being a Cleveland sports fan. We have some of the worst media, particularly in football, in the entire country. But look, when you're out there saying and they're telling you you had 11 turnovers tonight. Do you think you're kind of hurting your team in some ways? And then you totally deny it and just ignore it? I don't know, Trevor. I think some acknowledgement of his poor play at some point would be good because when you're shooting the ball from mid-range over the backboard, when you're missing, when you have multiple air balls in a week, when you casually miss rim on open jump shots constantly, I mean, it's a problem. It really is, Trevor. And I don't know how he can fix it because it's been an ongoing thing. It's been snowballing for years. And I do want to say his athleticism is waning. I have another buddy who I watch basketball with pretty constantly, and he made the point, Westbrook barely clears the rim on dunks nowadays. Go watch him in game. He barely clears the rim. He missed a dunk last week, Trevor, because he couldn't clear rim. I'm telling you, this guy, he has lost some of his athleticism, and I'd be very concerned, not just this year, but in upcoming years. Can he even consistently dunk? I mean, I don't know. And so, look, he's not worth $45 million. He's not even worth $15 million at this point in his career, Trevor. Abysmal in the defensive end, can't shoot free throws. My point is I feel bad for LeBron, but I also don't because he sabotaged himself. It was a self-sabotage. And at this point, Trevor, the only possibility of getting rid of Westbrook is trading for John Wall. Literally the only possibility is to trade for John Wall. Only situation with the salary.
I don't think that'd be any better.
I mean, maybe not. That's the thing. That kind of shows you the predicament they're in, right? They're stuck. And it's bad because I think that they're a bottom of the barrel seed in the playoffs. I think they'll have to play in the play-in again, Trevor. And Westbrook's the main issue. And I don't know how they fix it. I don't know what you have to say on this. If there's a solution that you see, But I don't see how you fix this, Trevor. I mean, he's just going to keep shooting bad shots.
What if I told you, Ryan, Russell Westbrook has a better field goal percentage this year than Steph Curry?
I'd say that's entirely possible, I guess, given the last few weeks, but still.
I think people are being a little harsh on Westbrook. And look, I agree with you.
No.
I think the turnovers are a big problem. Look, listen. The
Okay.
turnovers are a huge problem, but that's who Russell Westbrook is, and that's who he's always been. And if you're the Lakers, that's what you should have known when you were trading for this guy. He's explosive. He plays 110% every night. He gives you some good plays. I mean, last night he shot 50% from the field, gave you what, 18 points on 13, 14 shots, 5 boards, 5 assists. He also had 5 turnovers. But that's Russell Westbrook. It's some good, some bad, a lot of ugly. And I think we're being a little too hard on him. Look, I'm actually going to come on here and defend the Lakers a little bit. They have not been healthy, right? They have had all kinds of injury issues with LeBron, Anthony
Everybody has
Davis. Everybody on that team has missed games. I don't think there's been one player on that team who's played every game. And what I hate about the media and what I hate about critics is, now it's turned into, well, Frank Vogel might get fired. Frank Vogel won a title 2 years ago. Frank Vogel is not the problem with this team.
Yeah.
Russell Westbrook is part of the problem, and injuries are a big part of the problem. I will say getting AD back definitely was a good thing, and I saw a couple things I liked last night. One, he only took 1 3. Now, he only took 8 shots, but he only took 1 3. He missed it, obviously, because that's what he does. 2, this is what I really liked from Frank Vogel. I think Frank Vogel's had the realization that at the beginning of the year, he thought the Lakers are going to be a really deep team. You're bringing in all these guys, Malik Monk, Kendrick Nunn, Melo, Dwight Howard, all Avery Bradley. This could be an 11, 12-man team like my Phoenix Suns are. My Phoenix Suns can go 11 or 12 deep, as we're seeing right now. That's besides the point. He tightened up the rotation last night, Ryan. Kent Bazemore played 2 minutes. Other than that, only 9 guys played significant minutes, which is pretty low for an NBA roster. Most NBA rosters will play 10, 11 guys, significant minutes. Maybe if they're beat up, they'll play less guys, less minutes. But if they have their full roster with everyone fully healthy, most NBA teams will go maybe 10, maybe 11 deep. So I think the Lakers playing 8 or 9 guys is a good thing. And finally, I don't know what they see in Austin Reeves. I don't get it. Like Ryan said, he's a slow white guy.
Yeah.
He had an average summer league. He doesn't shoot very. I don't know why he gets 25 minutes a game. That's besides the point. Not to hate on Austin Reeves, good for him. But I think they need to, not play him as much. And I think they really need to focus on guys like Malik Monk, guys like Avery Bradley, guys like Melo. I think those should be your role players that come off the bench, right? I don't really mind their starting 5. Their starting 5 is LeBron, Westbrook, AD, and a couple other random guys. It's always going to be a couple other random guys, but I really think having guys like Bradley, Malik Monk, and Melo come off the bench and give you scoring and give you production in that second unit, but keeping it strictly to those guys is good for the Lakers. And we saw it last night. I think they shortened their rotation. They gave those guys more minutes. Anthony Davis, he'll come back and he'll continue to take more shots and have more of a role on offense. And if he continues to not take threes, I do think this team can figure it out, over the course of these next 35 games of the regular season. And with that being said, I've already talked about Russell Westbrook, and I'm going to finish it with this. The Lakers know what they're getting with him. They're not trading him this season. He's going to be a Laker through this year. And I think I think we're being a little too hard on him. I think we like focusing on the lowlights, all the plays where he's shooting shots off the top of the backboard. I just think that's Russell Westbrook. That's how he's always been. He has those lowlights.
And that's not
but he can also be very productive, though. But I think every NBA player has lowlights, right? Maybe Russ has a few more, but Russ has a lot more highlights as well. And I think we're being a little harsh on the lowlights. I think he's doing some good things for this team. And if he can play in that third role, where he can play a little bit more off the ball, maybe only take 12 shots a game, and just limit how much he has the ball in his hands, I think that's a good thing for the Lakers, and I think it can work very well because I think in spurts he could be really, really good, and that's what they're going to need. That could work. Just with his ego and all that and the LeBron aspect, I don't know if that's a thing.
Yeah.
But I think bringing him off the bench wouldn't be a bad idea, just because he can be very good in spurts, and I think come playoff time, that's things you're going to need. I talked about this earlier, right? You're going to need guys to give you that little bit extra, and I think Russ is a guy that can do that. And you can have, if AD's healthy, LeBron and AD, based on how LeBron is playing, those two guys can share the Lions, the bulk of the work, the bulk of the load, right? So I think Russ, if he can figure out how to be a number 3, this could work.
Can I just say something before I move on here to our last topic, Trevor? Look,
Did Darius Garland just make a 19-foot pull-up jump shot? He did, Ryan. Go ahead.
Thank you. I do need to know that because I will be going to watch this game after we wrap up this podcast. But I will say, Trevor, I just want to say one thing, and that is, why not ask him to come off the bench? The Cavaliers had a similar situation to Westbrook.
If he wants to win, he should be willing to do that.
Kevin Love's getting paid about $32 million this year, Trevor.
He is.
Going into the season, I thought he's going to have to come off the bench, but will his ego allow it? And turned out the answer wasn't only yes, but he wanted to do it. Right? So my thing is and look at him now. He's playing better than he has in years, Trevor. Same could be said for Westbrook if he came off the bench. Maybe he'd be more efficient. Maybe he'd be better with the second unit, knowing he's the guy to handle the ball. And going up against the other team's second unit, knowing that he can get positive minutes, be a positive influence on the floor. So I think that maybe that's something to experiment with. I don't think they will because they're scared of the media backlash and the fan backlash and the Westbrook himself backlash maybe. But I think that's something realistically, if we're looking at it from outside of a money and ego perspective, they should try. Because I think that would probably be his best spot. An energy guy to come off the bench and give his team points when they need it, because they don't have good second unit in terms of a ball handler or shot creator or facilitator. He'd be that guy. Right. So I would consider doing that. I think that's something they should think about. And I would really, really love it if they did that, because I think that would help their team win. And I think that would improve their ceiling. So, that's kind of my thought on that, Trevor. But, I don't know if you have anything else to add on Westbrook or the Lakers.
No, one question, Ryan, real quick. And I'm going to say something crazy. How many years is Westbrook under contract for, regardless of team? I don't know that number.
Oh, I couldn't tell you. I mean, if you want, I want to say 3.
Okay.
But
I'm just saying, if there's a way he doesn't return to this LA team next year, James Harden's going to be a Laker.
No way. By the way, so
we can talk about this later, but James Harden will be a Laker if Westbrook does not return.
Can I just say Westbrook
Mark my words.
This year and next year. So he's under contract until the summer of 23.
All right, you know what? They're going to find a way to get James Harden on the Lakers and Westbrook next year. No, okay, absolutely.
My gosh,
I'm just saying, Ryan. James Harden. There's reports now he's not happy in Brooklyn. He'll be a Laker.
I mean, if he doesn't want to get carried by KD anymore, I guess he doesn't have to. I guess he can
go.
I guess he can go over to Philly and ask Embiid to carry him. But my gosh, all right. Well, we'll see what happens with James Harden. But Trevor, look, we've one last topic to wrap up this podcast with, and it's yet another discussion about your team. And look, let's make this brief, Trevor. Why do you want to talk about the Suns tonight? I have one thing to say, and I'll say it in a minute, but you go ahead and say what you have to say.
You know what, Ryan? I think it's time my Phoenix Suns get some love. For whatever reason, Ryan, and I don't understand this, the Phoenix Suns are the only kind of second-tier market, not so much talked about, franchise that never, ever, ever gets national media attention. I even see it now on ESPN, look, the Cavs are a nice team this year. Oh, this Miami's looking really good. But no, the Phoenix Suns have the best record in the NBA by 4 games. They've won. We're 37-9. We're on pace to win 67 games this year. And what's the narrative? Oh, wait till Golden State gets healthy. Clippers, they'll be dangerous. The Lakers, AD's back. And maybe it's just because the fan base is so annoying that if they get any validation, it's you give an inch of validation, the fan base will take a mile. That very well could be it. And Ryan lives in it, a little bit less now that he's in school in Dallas. But when he's in Phoenix, he feels the fan base and how annoying and loud the fan base. It's not annoying, but how loud the fan base is. How prideful the fan base is. And I'm just sick and tired of hearing Skip and Shannon. I saw a tweet from Eddie Johnson, who's the Suns color commentator, go, why are Skip and Shannon and First Take and all these shows, why are they only talking about the Lakers? And why aren't they talking about, and I'll quote, the best damn team in basketball? And that's the Phoenix Suns. It's time we get our national media attention. Also, I'm going to say this. Devin Booker is an NBA Western Conference starter, and Chris Paul will come off as a Western Conference reserve or flip-flop it. I'm good with one of them being a starter and one of them being a reserve, but Devin Booker has been one of the 3 or 4 best backcourt players in the West this year.
Wow. Look. I'm not going to make a
It should
comment
be
on
him and
that.
John Morant. Him and John Morant should be the starting backcourt. I'll say it now.
Look, we'll see if you're right. I suspect you'll be wrong. I suspect they'll put Luka back there, and I don't know, somebody. They'll
Oh
put,
crap! I forgot about Luka. He's
yeah,
missed a lot of games though. It'll be Luka and it'll probably be Luka and Ja. That's what it should be. But it'll probably be Luka and Steph.
Anyway, Trevor. Anyway, the point is, not the point. The thing I wanted to talk about. There were 2 things, and I'll rattle them off real quick, Trevor. Look, I've had my qualms with the Suns. Look, they're not going to beat the Warriors. We can pretend all we want. They won't. Okay, they'll lose in 5 or 6 in the playoffs.
How are we so sure of this? I'm just so confused.
Draymond Green, coupled with Clay and Steph, cannot be beat by anyone in the West. I'm sorry, it's the way it is. When that big three is healthy, they'll beat anybody. But that's not what I'm here to discuss. I'm here to talk about some good things about the Suns, Trevor. Look, there's 2 things I want to say. One is I wish Cam Johnson was on my team. I love this guy. This guy's insane. I watched the Suns against the Mavericks. I'll tell you, every time I watch him, I tell my buddies, I'm like, hey, look, every time I watch him, he makes his shots. He literally never misses. It's unbelievable. He's shooting 43% from 3, Trevor. I mean, that's really good. And that's on decent volume as well. I mean, that's on, I believe, Trevor, that's on about 6 attempts a game from 3, which is pretty high volume.
I mean, I would say like 75% of his shots come from behind the arc. He takes a lot. I mean, a lot of his shots are from 3.
Yeah, no, you're almost right. Actually, it's about 2/3. You're exactly right. So that's kind of crazy that he shoots that high of a percentage. He's fantastic. He's your best shooter on your team from 3. So I wanted to shout him out, and also Bismack Biyombo, Trevor, because he's been really solid in his 9 games.
Fantastic.
That Ayton has not been able to play. I mean, he's playing, I think, Trevor, 20 minutes a game about, and he's making 70% of his shots, but he's also just doing the right things. He sets decent screens. He's a fine defender, but he also rolls to the rim at the right moments. He knows how to play as a big man in the pick and roll, and that's exactly what you need with a guy like Chris Paul, managing the point. And it's led to a bunch of wins, Trevor, right? So you guys haven't really seen a bump in the road from DeAndre Ayton's absence. And I want to say that's why Robert Sarver didn't give him that contract extension. And
I was about to talk about that, actually.
Again, Trevor, I think it was the right move. Look, go get a guy for cheaper. Clint Capella for half the money is much more worth it than paying Ayton the max. He doesn't deserve – look, a big man like him in today's NBA just doesn't deserve the max, in my opinion. Does he deserve $100 million? Yes. Does he deserve maybe 120? Probably. Does he deserve 180? No. So, those are my thoughts, Trevor. I don't know if you have anything else you want to say on the Suns before we wrap up, but go right ahead.
This whole thing, we can't beat the Warriors. I'm going to close this argument real quick. We're the best clutch team in the NBA. Devin Booker is the best clutch time shooter in the NBA, and Chris Paul has the highest plus minus in clutch time out of any player in the NBA. He has a plus 65 in the clutch, and that's exactly why people who run their mouths about how the Suns championship window is closed and how the Warriors, they're better, they're this, they're that. Look, I admit the Warriors are going to be very tough. I'm not saying my Suns are going to beat the Warriors. But look, to say that we have no shot or to say that we're not the best team in the NBA right now is, as Stephen A. Smith would say, asinine. On the topic of DeAndre Ayton, Ryan, I'm glad you brought it up because I was going to bring it up myself. I was texting in our fantasy football group chat and a couple other group chats last night, Ryan. I was going, I don't think DeAndre Ayton's worth the max anymore. And I'm just watching a guy like Bismack Biyombo, who we picked up off the street, who is, I mean, look, he's good at what he does. He's a big man who can dunk the ball and block some shots and get some rebounds. I'm seeing Bismack Biyombo turn into a double-double machine. This guy's averaging like 20 and 15 over his last 3 games. And I'm thinking to myself, that's exactly what Ayton would be averaging. And Ayton would cost 5 times as much. And I'm thinking to myself, it's not DeAndre Ayton. DeAndre Ayton's success might be small. It might be, a little bit from him. He can hit some jump shots. He can do some things individually. DeAndre Ayton's success is all Chris Paul. And I've come to realize that, which makes me love Chris Paul even more. And also made me realize that DeAndre Ayton is not worth a max. If he's willing to bring down his price point a little bit, like Ryan said, to 120 million, I'd give him 150 million, maybe. I'd give him probably 25, 30 million a year.
There you go.
But I'm not going to give him 180, 200 million.
Not worth
this guy's not worth Giannis money. He's not worth Doncic money. He's not worth,
Trae Young money.
Nikola Jokic money.
Yeah.
It's just for the sole reason that we saw it with Jalen Smith. Jalen Smith was inserted into the starting lineup, and this guy all of a sudden was averaging double-doubles. JaVale McGee inserted in the starting lineup. He can give you 12 and 10 on any given night. Bismack Biyombo, 2 games in a row, is giving us like 18 and 15. And I'm just thinking to myself, why would we give DeAndre Ayton $40 million a year when we can get 80% of his production for $15 million a year? Plus, we're going to have to sign Cam Johnson. Plus, we're probably going to have to figure out a way to keep Devin Booker on another max deal. Plus, if we want to keep Jay Crowder, he's only under contract through next year.
Exactly. So how important is Ayton?
He's important, but should we lock ourselves down to DeAndre Ayton for the next 5 years and be willing to give up guys like Jay Crowder, Cam Johnson, other people? I think the only mistake this Suns organization has made in the last 3 years is signing Landry Shamet to a 4-year, $40-something million deal. I don't know what the hell that was, but
not worth it.
The franchise has been perfect with these signings, and I'm going to come around and agree with you, Ryan. Ryan,
there you go.
Look, I've been agreeing with Ryan more and more recently, but Ryan has been right more and more recently. He's figured it out over these last couple of episodes, and he was right. He goes, Trevor, you guys made the best decision you guys ever made was to extend Mikal Bridges and not DeAndre Ayton. And I laughed at him. I was like, Ryan, come on. Like, did you see the playoffs DeAndre Ayton had?
Yep.
And now I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it with guys like Bismack Biyombo and Jalen Smith, who are no-namers being picked up off the streets, or bench warmers who have done nothing in 2 years. So Ryan was spot on with this. Very, very good analysis. And I got to give him props. But look, you got to admit, you got to say this, Ryan, as I'm giving you props.
Yes.
The Suns are the best team in the NBA right now.
At this current moment, with Draymond Green hurt, yeah.
Oh my! With that. All right, that's good enough. I'll take what I can get.
Look, I just can't agree that a healthy Warriors team is not better than the Suns. But look, Trevor, we'll save that argument for another time, another week. But I appreciate
we got many more months of this.
Yeah, look, I appreciate you giving me props on Ayton. Look, I wasn't trying to diss him. I'm just saying he's not worth the max. He's worth triple. He's worth triple digits. He's not worth max money. I'm going to stand by that, and I'm glad I did because I think that's right. But look, Trevor, we'll see what the Suns do. We'll see what Ayton does. But for now, I guess we'll just wrap this podcast up here and just wait for next week's playoff games. I got one
shout out. I'm sorry.
No, go right ahead.
I want to give a major shout out to Cooper Kupp's wife. I think she deserves a shout out. And no, Ryan's shaking his head, but look, Ryan, this woman transferred to Eastern Washington to be with Cooper Kupp and worked a full-time job to financially provide for them so that Cooper Kupp could focus on his education and football. She's been with him since his college days at Eastern Washington. She provided financially for him while he was playing football at Eastern Washington. And Cooper Kupp credited and basically said, I wouldn't be where I am today without her. So I want to give a major shout out to his wife and Cooper Kupp in general for having a great relationship and a great season for Cooper Kupp. And that's the kind of life partner we all look for. And look, Ryan shook his head, but now he's instantly.
I know. I'm sorry. Yeah, I feel bad. I didn't expect this to be all.
But I wanted
to
give her a shout out because I like giving shout outs, and I read an article about that like a few days ago, and I wanted to come out here and publicly announce my support of their relationship. So,
well, Trevor, that's good for you. I'm sure they'll see this and approve. And thank you. So, Trevor, thank you for that. But look, man, that was a good shout out. Wow, I can't fault that at all. But I don't have any shout outs. That just about does it for this podcast. So we'll be back next week, Trevor, to talk about the more NFL playoff games, the conference championships, and some more NBA, and maybe we'll throw in some college basketball, Trevor, because it is winding down. We got some fun prospects. We got some fun teams. So maybe we'll jump in and talk about some Auburn and U of A next week. You never know, Trevor.
Tough U of A game last night.
Yeah, well, at least Auburn won. But look, Trevor, we'll be back next week. Hope y'all enjoyed, and we'll see you then.
Chris Paul for MVP.